It's,
Well, yeah, but we shouldn't be. There are, we weren't meant to have an IRS. Even when they passed it, in 1913, they said it was only going to be 1% on the rich or 2% on the rich. The common man won't get taxed. Well, by the end of World War II, they started instituting withholding tax on the common working man, and from then on in, man, it was all over for us. And it's not that it's all over. We just got to. We've been so conditioned into accepting it that we think that's all that we ever had. That's all there ever will. We have to start thinking beyond that.
Yeah, but it's true, and there are other departments. There's so much duplication in the government.
Oh, it's ugly. Plus, the federal government is supposed to be limited. It's supposed to be limited to the structure what the Constitution says for this commerce between the states. And, it's not supposed to run the welfare system. It's not supposed to provide Obamacare or health care to everybody. Those should be done. That's why we're called the United States. We're not called the United Federalist of America. We're called the United States of America.
But,
that's why we're going to get back to states' rights.
But
that's what they believed in. That's what we were named after.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to get back to.
But I'm saying, even if they get rid of a lot of these departments and everything else, and somehow in the compromise they make one universal health plan or something, and get rid of the rest of the junk, that would be a compromise, But you can't be doing, the government can't be doing everything. It's just impossible.
Right, they can't. Well, we're better off allowing the states to handle those things. The health care should be handled at the state level. Education should be handled at the state level. Mm-hmm. Anything that wasn't explicitly said in the Constitution was reserved for the people in the states. And that's where we need to go back to constitutional principles. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, it's going to take a while. But a lot of people are getting it. A lot of people are getting educated to it, and a lot of people are coming around to it.
Well, what's happening now is, like you said before, Mark was saying also, people are fed up with what's going on. They're fed up with the same old. I used to say that the Americans always complain, but 90% of the same people go back to the office. There's only change of 10% normally in the Congress and the Senate. Why? Because people are afraid.
Right,
exactly. Go ahead.
Term limits, we should have had term limits. We did under the Articles of Confederation. It's a shame what happens in Congress. And people are fed up with it. We're just fed up with D.C. that they only have a 10% approval rating. The guys, O'Boehner Jr. and Itchy McDonald, and these guys they should be hiding their face in shame instead of saying it for the Constitution. They just carry on Obama's principles and whatever Obama wants.
Well, it's not so much that they're carrying out Obama's principles. They're just not doing the people's work. We sent them there to do something and get some legislation passed, and instead they're doing everything to either prevent either side from getting anything done. Okay? There's no reaching across the aisle anymore.
Well, it's like Obama said, they're all beholden to their people who have paid them off, their lobbyists.
Oh, no. Something? Trump said that. Trump's been saying that since he started.
That's what I just said, yeah.
You said Obama.
Oh, Trump, I'm sorry. That's
the bottom line is Trump has been saying, he says, and he loves to use Bush as an example. And he'll throw Hillary in there also, but he says, because he knows that these two are, the two people that he has to, beat out, okay? And he said, Bush has the name, and Bush gets the money from, the Koch brothers or Sheldon Adelstein, wherever they're getting their money. Well, these people want a return for their investment. They're not giving you money unless they get something in return.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Trump said
there's an old saying that been around for 10 or 20 years, maybe longer. And it's we got the best government money can buy. And there we go back into the centralized money system. That's really the Federal Reserve is neither federal or reserve. And it's more of a manipulative tool by, behind the scenes international players.
Well, we just need to start slowly downsizing a little bit and keep.
No, go ahead.
Slowly, we need to downsize a lot. I would have, what I wish that when they shut the government down, keep it shut down. Non-essential government. If it's non-essential, then we don't need it in the government. Shut it down and sell off the assets and put it towards that.
What do you think of the military?
We need to protect ourselves from other countries. So, first thing we need to do is put our military right on the border and protect our borders. That's what the military is for. We don't need to be protecting the borders all over the rest of the current world. We need, first, let's take care of our own house. Then we go clean house everywhere else.
That much is true.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we really do have to take care of our own first.
We got enough problems in this own country right now. We don't need to be concentrating on these other countries. ISIS doesn't fear me as much as the idiots in Washington, D.C. bother me. You know what I mean? And that, like I said, if they were smart, they would already had the gumption to say, hey, you know what, our borders are a mess. We're bringing the Army and our own military in right now. We're going to ask the states of Texas and stuff to bring in some National Guard, and they can shut that thing down tomorrow.
You talk about, Washington and whatever. I used to tell my students, every time it was, election day or around that time, how many of your parents voted? And most of the time they said no. And I said, and they said, well, but it's not for president and it's not for senator or congressman. It's local stuff. And I said, you know something? That's where you get your most change. Okay? The bottom line is the local politicians, okay, these are the ones that directly are working for you. And if you're not voting in these minor elections, okay, then whoever is in there, if they're not going to do something that you would like to see changed, you have no right to complain because you didn't bother to vote. Americans have been dying since the beginning of the Revolutionary War, so that you got one person, one vote. That's where you have total equality, okay? And by not exercising the right to vote, who are you hurting? You're hurting yourself. You're hurting your own cause. I mean,
when you think about it, the Congress and the president do very little for most people. It's the states that make the most changes. The marijuana laws, the states are doing nothing to do with the government.
Hey, do you remember the movie The Candidate with Robert Redford?
Yeah, vaguely. I do kind of remember that one.
Okay, well, Robert Redford was taking on this elderly, successful senator who had been in office for well over 30 years, and he was the new face on the block, an up-and-coming kid. Well, the bottom line is, his team got him elected. And after he gained the nomination and he was elected, he turned to his chief advisor, or the guy who was in charge of getting him elected. He said, what do I do now? I said, and the guy said, I don't know, that's up to you. He says, my job was to get you elected. Now you're on your own. Okay, and that's the thing. How many of the new faces or the new kids on the block actually know what they're getting into? They all start out very idealistic, and it doesn't take long. It just takes a few years in Washington to realize that you got to play a game. Okay, and everybody's playing the same game.
Oh, it's a terrible situation. That's why I push more of a change coming through the states, and I see lots of changes in a lot of states. Washington is like quicksand. It's it'll suck them right in and pull them right down there, and they're going to drown in money and drown in. They'll lose their whole vision of what they really were about, and that's what happens to most people that do go to Washington. It's just it's just so corrupt and that's why Washington, it's built up, and they're the highest paid area in the United States because they got so many people. The average, they make like federal employees. There's 3 to 4 million federal employees now in these big pension plans and these big buildings and stuff, and then they make an average of $80,000-$90,000 each with big pension plans on top of that, with the, a lot of perks and stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Well,
I mean, we just got way too much of it.
If you're talking about senators and congressmen, yes. If you're talking about the average federal employee, there I believe your statistics are wrong, because I remember, when I was...
recently, the ones in D.C., the ones who are parts, if you look up the ATF employees, the DEA employees, the IRS employees, the CIA employees, you're going to find that these guys have, even your postal employees, the bottom of the list, those guys are making $50,000 and $60,000 a year now. But most of these other agencies I'm talking about, they're making big money.
Well, also, the Senate.
And it's not fair. I mean, the working people out here busting their ass off for $30,000 a year, and then we got 4 or 5 million federal employees that we really don't need, half of them. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you go in and I got a list on it. I just went there, just put up different federal agencies under the executive branch, under the congressional branch, and under the judicial branch, and you will be amazed. I mean, there's 5 or 6 pages of just the listings. There's hundreds of them. And it's ridiculous how many buildings and cars and how much salary and everything they take. And at the federal level, and the federal level is supposed to be limited because we are the United States. Our power should be at the state level, not at the federal level.
The Trump was saying something. He'll take the U.S. Post Office building in Washington and make it a hotel. He said it'll be profitable right away.
No, he said he is. He said he is going to do that.
That's what we need to do.
That's what he's doing.
To get rid of the federal government. You know what? If he comes off of that and starts going, I might turn to Trump. I don't really trust Trump. He's more of a. But you know what? I trust him more than I do those other idiots around, like Senator Graham. He's been in there for 30 years. He's when God is in his best. Always the way he talks.
Lindsey Graham. When Lindsey Graham talks, he talks about one thing. He talks about the military.
Send the troops over there.
And he talks about boots on the ground.
Yeah,
he'd have.
I mean, enough of that already. Enough of that already. Hello?
Yeah,
It's.
I'm not hearing what you said, Ed.
Well, I mean, enough of that. Sending our military troops over there. It doesn't work. We don't need to. We need to put them on the border right here. We've got enough illegal aliens invading us by the masses, stealing our jobs, hurting our school systems, our hospitals, everything else. We can't afford to do this. We got to have a border, or else, that's what happened to the Roman Empire. So, they just kept getting invaded, and they fell down.
Well, what did Trump say? He said they're illegal immigrants. Illegal. They're here illegally. They're not undocumented, whatever.
Well, his term of the week, though, right now is anchor baby. That's what he's using now. He talks about them coming over and having children, and then they using that as an excuse to stay because their children are considered citizens because they're born here.
He said that famous.
Well, what happens is in China they have agencies that you pay, and they send you to, when you're pregnant, just a couple of weeks before you're going to have a baby, they send you to California. They put you up in a hotel. They have facilities there. You have your baby, American citizen. They go back to China.
And once I do, we got so much welfare, it's ridiculous. Now we got to take care of it. It's crazy. The whole concept is crazy. We need to secure our borders first. And we could secure them tomorrow. All we got to do is bring in the military until we get, whatever. If Trump gets somebody to build a wall, that's fine. The Mexicans build a wall, whatever. But we can at least show up. We're not playing games now.
He
and
takes.
We need to start.
he takes the bull by the horns. When he talks about building the wall, he says, "I'm a builder. That's what I do. I build."